guys, and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be going through some bumper colour coding work and also blending the colour coding work out into the existing bumper so that you're not going to get any differential between the colour coding work that you've done and the rest of the car. Because one thing I've found sometimes that if you do these little jobs and you colour code it up and you get blend a little bit too far on the bumper, or if you just paint the piece as a solid section, then sometimes you end up with a different colour where your panel touches your car, which obviously from your point of view and your customer's point of view isn't really, something that you want. So the section that we're going to be doing on this bumper, the day before I scuffed it all up, plastic primed it, masked off just the area that we're going to do, which is this area in black that you can see, and then put 3 or 4 coats of high build primer on it. That's then been left overnight. Then we've used a P600, sanded that back down, and then used a P1000 all over the bottom and also all over the rest of the bumper. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a quick clean off with a nice fresh tack rag. Now, before bringing this in the booth, or when I first brought this into the booth, we'd already tack ragged this off and panel wiped it off. And then I'll go out, mix my paint, get a fresh tack cloth, and blow this off with the air from the spray gun just before we get round to the actual painting side of things, just so I can make sure that when this base coat goes down, that it's really nice and clean and everything's as dedusted and decontaminated as we can for putting the base coat down. Now the base coat that I'm using for this job is a Mobile solvent base coat. We've only got a tiny bit of this, which is the reason for doing this bottom piece of primer in black. Getting a better match for your primer for the colour that's going over the top will help you save materials, and in the long run that's going to help you save on your paint wastage and also mean you can get less paint in for a job, which means you can pass that saving on to your customers, or it's a few extra quid in the bank for yourself if you're doing this and you're charging for it. Now, one thing that one of my viewers did mention to me last week was that they noticed that I always concentrate on the hard to reach areas and the edges, etc. first. Now, the reason for that is to make sure that when you're going around the car that you don't miss any of these edges, so that once you've got this lacquered up, you're not going to end up with any little thin areas around these hard to reach points. So for me, it's always sort of the best option to go around these first, make sure you've got a nice coat over them, and make sure they're coloured up at the start of each coat. That way, when you come to finish your final job, you'll know that all these little edges are already covered and that you're good to go. Like now, straight over with your nice wet coat. Now, this Mobile base coat, it's a 1-to-1 mix with thinners, so 50-50, and it does go down quite nice. And you can see using this black primer that with one coat, this looks pretty much the same colour already. Now, we're not trying to concentrate on painting the whole bumper here. What we're trying to concentrate at the moment is basically just this section that we want to colour up. So we're not worried about any blends or anything like that. And at the same time, we're making sure we keep the paint away and the overspray away from those 2 edges where the bumper bolts onto the quarter panel, because that's where you're going to get that colour differential once you bolt this on the car. So it's important to try and keep away from those. Now, you could get a good colour match on this colour. It's not a bad colour for colour matching, to be fair. And then you could just put this straight on and paint this bottom section, put it on the car, and it'd probably only be a shade off. But for me, I prefer to get this bang on and have this looking like it's never been done. So for me, this is the best way. So we're going to pop a second coat on now, just a nice fine thin wet coat. A prep means that we don't have to worry about putting too much of a heavy coverage on for the sanding scratches or anything like that, because everything's been done in a P1000, so even with one really fine coat there's no sanding scratches on this. So all we're going to do is make sure we go around and make sure everything's got a nice even coverage and a nice even colour. And again, we're not worrying about any blending work at this stage. This is purely to make sure that we've got the colour down on the bumper and that everything's looking really nice and even and nice. So the final stage now, what we're going to do now is we're going to put the final colour coat on this, and basically at the end of that give it a little bit of a drop coat and a blend coat. Now, one thing we are going to make sure when we're doing this is that we keep well away from those edges where this bumper touches the car. Now, you will get this tiniest little bit of dusty overspray that will land near there, but that's not a problem. That's not going to alter the original colour of the bumper. So all we've got to do is just make sure that we've got good gun control at this point, and that we're watching where the paint is landing when it's coming out of the gun. Now, the good thing is with this Moby help, because it's a 50-50 mix, it does go down really wet, so you don't get any dry overspray or anything landing on the exterior areas. And where your overspray is landing, it ends up in a really nice, neat little blend. So as you can see, I've gone round all the edges and everywhere and give this a nice dust coat over it, because I know it's already coloured up, and I'm just extending that dust coat and basically flicking it across the middle section of the bar of the bumper there, and working our way around just to give it a really light blend around the rest of the bumper area. For me, this ends up in a twice as much of a clean job as just bolting the bottom, and it's just painting the bottom and it ending up a shade out. We're going to end up with a really nice even cover over the whole bumper. Through this bit that we've obviously taken away from being a factory rough plastic finish to being now a nice smooth factory looking painted bumper, and it's still got its little original bit at the bottom in black where the exhaust and stuff come out, but this now gives a lot of a cleaner look, and you can see there we've got a nice even colour. I can't see any differential where the blends or anything are. And when you look at this corner now, basically that is the edge that you want to keep your paint off. When you're putting the paint down, you want to make sure that your overspray and your blending goes a little bit higher around that area so that you don't touch those areas where it touches the car. So something new we managed to get in the shop is a Sata 5000 RP digital in a 1.2 setup for clear coat. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me about this to do my thoughts on it, but it's something that I've not used before, so we managed to get hold of one. Now, for this job we're using MS clear coat, and pressure wise we're running at 1.8 bar, 2 turns out in the fluid, and we're running a full fan. Now, literally at this stage, this is my second or third time using this gun, and I have to say I am quite impressed. And I'm quite impressed with the cup system as well, compared to some of the others. And we will do a lot of videos using this gun, and get a lot more in-depth reviews and information on all of it, and all its functions, and all its design as well in future videos. For this video, we're just going to get cracking on with this bumper. Now, as usual, between the base coat and clear coat stage, we are just going to give this a quick tack rag off, just to make sure that any dry overspray that was in the air, or anything that could have settled in the booth on that bumper while we've been waiting for that base coat to flash off, and while we've been outside of the booth mixing the clear up, has now settled, and we can just get a tack rag and clean that off the bumper and make sure everything's good, and we're ready to shoot this clear and get a nice finish. Now, the good thing about re-clearing all of this area rather than just painting that one section at the bottom that we're going to do is going to make sure that also the bumper's got a nice even finish all over. Because obviously, if we paint that bottom section and the top of the bumper has got a real sort of like really OEM looking finish, and then we've painted the bottom of this and got it a little bit too nice when we've got it off the gun, now it's not going to stand out so much, because 9 times out of 10 most cars, the finish on the bumper doesn't match the finish on, say, the quarter panel that it's touching. So to re-clear all this bottom bit, one, gives the bumper a whole nice fresh look now for when the customer gets it back, and also I think leaves the job looking a lot cleaner than just painting that bottom section. And again, doing it this way, blending out that base coat just through that little middle section of the bumper bar and keeping it off that edge, means that also when the customer bolts this back on, they're going to get a really nice clean colour match on their job, because however well that matched before, it's going to match just as well now. But for our point of view, from painting the bottom, we've done that right. We know our colours blended in nice. We know it's not going to be a bit that looks like has been added on at a later date. So we can keep the car looking a lot more factory and a lot more standard than to say just painting this bottom section on its own. So that's just about it for coat 1, and as you can see, this Sata really does perform really well and does look and feel really nice in the hand as well. Now, as far as the gun goes, looking at it like this, on the bottom you've got the air pressure, in the middle you've got the fan, and on the top you've got the fluid screw, which has a really handy lock nut on it. So if you were doing something like a full respray or even a little job like this, you can dial your settings in and you know you're not going to knock that setting as you're going around the car. So we're getting down to coat number 2 now on this bumper, and we're going to make sure that this second coat goes down a little bit wetter, so we're just going to alter the gun settings a touch. I'm still keeping the pressure the same at 1.8 bar, which is for MS, not HS, and also 2.5 turns out on the fluid. We've just upped that a little bit, just so we can get this second coat down a little bit wetter. That first coat now, having flashed off and being nice and tacky, enables us to put this second coat down a lot wetter, which will give you that really nice off the gun finish that you're looking for. The other thing to make sure is that you make sure that as you're going across, each pass is a nice uniform overlapped pass. So if your first pass and your setup on your gun is giving you a nice, say, glassy finish or a nice OEM finish, as long as you keep that nice even overlap, then you're going to get that all the way across the bumper. Now, with a spray gun like this 5000 RP, it's really easy to get a nice even overlap because the fan on this is huge, so it does really help you along with that. And another thing with this gun that I'd say is it does feel like it's absolutely pumping loads of paint out. Now, I measured out the right amount of clear for this job that I would have put through my, say, bell area. With an MS clear, I'd have put 200 ml in of mixed clear per coat. Now, I put 400 ml in this Sata, and although it does look like there's a ton more overspray coming off this job, I have to say, literally at the end you will see it used the same amount of lacquer pretty much to the drop. I think I ended up with probably about 25 ml, if that, left over. So I was quite happy. It's not a high-end clear, this one, but at the same time it's not a budget one. It's a mid-range one that we use on everyday jobs, and it really did put down a nice gun finish out of this, and really did leave this bumper looking really nice and fresh and clean. And I have to say, better than factory, but it was a finish that I was happy to send it out with and looking really nice. And I'm sure the customer, when he gets it back, will be over the moon with the colour coding work and also the overall finish on the rest of his bumper now. Um, as I said before, it's nice just to clear the rest of that bumper up, just to make sure it's all nice and fresh. And areas like there, they always get scratched when they're coming in and out of the boot. So just to give that clear coat a bit of 1000 down there and give it a nice fresh coat will give this a real nice look afterwards. So that's about it for the actual painting side on that job. As you can see, we literally do not have anything left in there. Now, one thing that was shown on these Sata RPS pots is if you squeeze the pot and pop the cap in on the lid, and then you turn the gun upside down and depress the trigger, hey presto, it sucks all the remaining paint out of your gun in a matter of seconds, which means you can literally take this outside, get a little bottle, rinse straight down that end with some thinners, and your gun's clean as a whistle and ready to go. Which I have to say is another little nifty point about that gun and cup system that's on it. So that's the finished bumper, guys, in the booth, and we'll give you a little shot of that outside so you guys can see that blend in the sun and see that, you know, it's not just a in the booth shot and a bit of tricky camera work. There she is out in the sun about an hour later, and as you can see, finish wise and colour wise, it's absolutely spot on. I think there's probably about 4 or 5 little nibs that we'll take out of it, and then we'll send that out with the rest of that bumper being a really nice off the gun finish and back to the customer. So that's it from me for today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.